The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters. And welcome back to the Personal Safety Show. Hopefully you've digested everything that we talked about in the first half of the show, which was regarding a home invasion in Arlington Heights 4 years ago. The case is finally over. One of the other things I'd like to bring up is safety. And there is something right now called the Senior Assassin Game. And the Senior Assassin Game occurs in multiple Chicago area suburbs, where this viral game involves high school seniors attempting to, quote, tag, unquote, each other with water guns, often while wearing ski masks to conceal their identity. I know I just said that it's the Chicago area only, but it's really nationwide. And police are giving warnings to high school seniors. Now, it sounds like a lot of fun. If I remember right, we did something when I was in high school similar to this. But the problem comes in, and this actually happened in Gurnee, Illinois in the last week, when these high schoolers get squirt guns that look like real guns. So I would urge everyone to use super soakers, or, like the Nerf guns are super bright yellow. I'd get a super soaker like that so that it does not look like a real firearm. So basically, police agencies are sounding the alarm on this game, and the Arlington Heights, Illinois Police Department conveys that the community should be aware of this online live-action game, and it's played in Arlington Heights. It's an annual springtime tradition. Sounds like a lot of fun. Participants attempt to forego match elimination by squirting other players using a water gun, with the goal of being the last person remaining in the game, police in the village of Arlington Heights wrote on Facebook Friday. The concept is not illegal. It's not against the local ordinance, and the police are asking everyone to play safely, use common sense, and recognize how players' actions may be perceived by members of the community. The unintentional result of participants running through the community with a water gun, some often resembling a look-alike firearm, could have deadly consequences, particularly with the amount of people that are concealed carrying. Police issued a warning after the game's rules dictate that the players are not able to play on school grounds or within classrooms, thus bringing their game into the public, where bystanders may not be aware of what is really happening. Players attempt to locate opponents at various sites, including home, parks, gathering places, restaurants, and they often hide in odd spots, chasing targets through yards, and appear suddenly on vehicle or foot, said the Arlington Heights Police. The police department does not condone or support cited objectives in the game. The state of Illinois has an increasing number of individuals who possess a concealed carry license and ability to carry a concealed firearm in public for self-defense. We are alerting residents that this springtime game has begun, and I'm alerting my listeners that this springtime game has begun. In addition to seeing participants suspiciously hiding around town, the use of water guns can produce deadly consequences if these bystanders, particularly those who have a concealed carry license, should come upon them. Police department has received multiple calls regarding associated activity. One such call resulted in a significant police response based on the homeowner reporting man with a gun running through the residential yard. Please do not assume any similar suspicious activity observed is related to the game. Any unusual activity should be reported by immediately calling 911. Parents are encouraged to talk to their children about safety concerns linked to openly carrying a squirt gun that resembles a look-alike firearm and being on private property without permission. Consider the perception of an uninformed resident who sees the person rapidly displaying a replica firearm in a populated common area. That action could be viewed as alarming and disturbing, which are elements of a criminal offense and or local ordinance violation, disorderly conduct. Police departments understand that there is excitement and anticipation as the school year comes to a conclusion. We request that all students please be mindful to their actions. Other towns and police departments across Illinois are similarly issuing the same alarm. Quote, yes, according to the Gurnee Police Department, a group of high school students from a neighboring community entered a local restaurant wearing ski masks and displaying water guns resembling firearms. They were targeting other students who were dining in the restaurant and attempting to spray them with water. An adult who was a concealed carry holder in the restaurant mistook the situation for a genuine threat, and that situation could have escalated quickly. The gravity of the situation cannot be emphasized enough. It has the potential to lead to serious consequences, meaning death or great bodily harm. I'm looking at a picture of Village of Bartlett, and looks like there's two guns in the picture. They're squirt guns, but boy, they look like a Glock 19 and a Glock 17 to me. The Gurnee Police Department would like to emphasize that the depiction of firearms, whether real or imitation, in any public setting is a matter of concern and may instill fear among the public. We urge community members to reconsider their participation in such activities and recognize the seriousness of their actions. I've been around the block a couple times, and a statement like this really doesn't deter anyone from doing it. So, Village of Bartlett warns their residents that their water gun game will start April 14th, which is this weekend. Although the game has strict rules that prohibit trespassing or any other illegal activities, other police departments, including St. Charles, have responded to 911 calls made by residents who've seen suspicious vehicles or individuals wearing masks or hoodies lurking around their neighbors' homes. You can see how this could lead to absolute, utter disaster. Some reports also involve participants driving on lawns or brandishing what look like realistic-looking handguns, as I just described in the picture, which often cause concern for the responding officers since they are unable to tell whether the participating students were committing actual crimes or simply playing a game. So parents out there, please get your kid a brightly colored squirt gun. It's really, really easy to do, and that way there's no mistaking, is it a real firearm or is it a squirt gun? I know that when you're in high school, and I was the same way, it's really cool to have a look-alike firearm. I get it. I used to play with guns as a kid. As a matter of fact, I was outside of my friend's house. We were running around with toy guns that clearly looked like toy guns, at least to me. And some dude, and I'm a elementary school, first, second, third grade maybe, stops his car, gets out, and approaches me, and I'm a kid. You shouldn't play with that. Okay, well, see you later. I don't know why he wanted to get involved. Now, today, I would not, if you see someone with a firearm, unless you are in immediate danger of death or great bodily harm, and that means a debilitating injury. Great bodily harm is this nebulous term that is in the law that I am not a lawyer, so this is your caveat. This is not a legal answer. However, I believe in my world that great bodily harm means anything that will place you in the emergency room for a physical injury. Saying, "Oh, I'm offended," is not a physical injury. Being upset is not a physical injury. But if somebody is in fear of or is currently being injured to the point where it could take them to the hospital or kill them, then firearm use may be justified under the law. And I have to say may, because again, I am not an attorney. I want to make that absolutely clear. We're going to segue to another topic called maintenance. Stay tuned, but for now, here's a little message for you. I want my listeners to know that this is my dream, teaching people about safety. If it weren't for you, if it weren't for my listeners, I couldn't live my dream. So on behalf of my family and myself, I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to live my dream. And I also want to continue to live my dream, and I'm excited to continue to spread the word of safety. Recently, I began a new service as a conference keynote speaker. So, if anyone would like for me to speak at future events, or if anyone knows of an introduction or would like to discuss how we can work with one another, I'd love to do just that. The keynote speaking website is www.stress, the number 2, logic.com. That is STRESS, the number 2, LOGIC.com. If you're aware of any conference speaking engagements where you'd like to have me speak, I'd love an introduction. You can always share my electronic business card, which is Marcus Melnick, MarcusMelnick.com. Now, back to the show. As a personal safety specialist, as a personal safety educator, one of the things that I do is I teach people how to safely use, maintain, and store their firearms, especially new firearm owners. I'm a big advocate for safes, and maintenance is something that nobody likes to do maintenance on their firearms. I like to do maintenance on mine, although it is time consuming. So we're going to talk about maintenance here, what you can do, what you should do. Now, one of the things I do want to tell everyone is that if somebody takes either a concealed carry certification class with me or 2 private lessons from me, maybe they don't want concealed carry, but they're interested in getting a gun, one of the things that I offer is a free cleaning lesson. Now, in concealed carry class, I cover this, but it's at a very high level because different firearms take apart differently. For example, you've got SIG, you've got Springfield Armory that you lock the slide back, there's a lever on the side, same thing with SIG, and the lever goes down or up depending on the firearm. SIG, it goes down, Springfield Armory, it goes up, and then you remove the slide. And it's different. Glocks, some Walthers, all take apart differently. The old Smith & Wessons, the new Smith & Wessons, they all have different ways to take apart. And since there's just hundreds of firearms out there, I think it's better, and it works for me, if I do a high-level firearm maintenance discussion and video in class, and then work with individuals on their individual gun. For example, let's just say, Glock is a very common gun to take apart and maintain, and once you kind of get the finesse of it, it's really easy to take it apart. It took me a little bit of time to get that finesse, but I got it, and boom, I can take it apart really quickly. And I can show everyone how to take apart a firearm and how to clean a firearm and what the different parts are. But what if somebody who doesn't like Glocks? They like Smith & Wessons. They like CZ. They name a brand. Everyone has different tastes. Everyone has different hand sizes and configurations. And that's why there's this variety of firearms out there. So once you take a class from me, if it's a concealed carry or 2 lessons, you get a free, FREE, cleaning lesson. Now, why do I do this? Well, I do this because I have to clean my firearms anyway. Chances are I'll have something that takes apart similar to what you may have, and we'll sit across the table from each other in a garage, and I will strip and clean my gun, showing you how to do the same thing, assuming yours takes apart the same way. My firearms are dirty a lot because, at least the ones for class. The ones I use for self-defense are immaculate, clean, ready to go, oiled. The ones I use for class, they have some buildup on them. And why do they have some buildup? A couple reasons. Number one, I do offer this service to everyone who's taken a class from me. So I don't want someone to come over and for me to have a clean gun and show somebody how to clean a clean gun. It makes sense for me to show them what it looks like before, we'll clean it, and then what it looks like after. And I've been doing this since I was a little kid. I'm going to tell a funny story in a minute. I was doing this since I was a little kid, and I enjoy it. I have a technique that I use that is very, very good. I used to use Hoppies. I still have Hoppies. I still use it because it's a common but I do use another product. It's a spray, and I can't think of the name of it. In any event, when I was a kid, I learned how to clean firearms. And my father was old school. Not quite baby boomer, but before baby boomer. He was born in 1934, which makes him, I don't know what the generation before baby boomer is called, but we had a 9-shot revolver, which means there's 9 chambers. It's a 22. There's 9 chambers plus the barrel. What he would have me do is run that cylindrical brush through the barrel and through the 9 chambers 25 times each. That's right, 25 times. Now, the NRA says 10 to 15. I'll give you my opinion in a little bit, but 25 times. And then run a patch through until the patch comes out clean. And for those of you who have cleaned firearms, you know what I'm talking about. So after that, he would hold the cylinder up to the light in our little workshop, and he would say 6 words to me. Those 6 words were, "Not good enough, do it again." And I would do it again. Another 25 strokes in each of the 9 chambers plus the barrel. It's 500 strokes back and forth. You think I learned how to clean firearms? Yes. Is that overkill? Forgive the pun? Yes. It really depends on how much you shoot and the type of ammo that you shoot in today's world. Back then, we would use reloads. My father and I would make ammunition in the basement, and we would shoot the ammunition that we would make. And because we were frugal, or I should say he was frugal, he only used lead-nosed bullets. Well, today I use jacketed bullets. Lead melts at a certain temperature, and it can smear the inside of the barrel, making cleaning very, very difficult. So I always recommend to everyone, except during the ammo shortage, it was get what you can get, but get jacketed ammunition. Your cleaning will be a lot easier. So once you take apart the semi-auto and you've cleaned the one barrel, or you have a revolver and you've cleaned the barrel and the cylinders, I always recommend doing the barrel and the cylinders first. There's a very good reason for you can do whatever you want, but when that brush comes out of whatever hole it is, chamber, barrel, doesn't matter, it has a fine mist that sprays. So I've seen people in gun stores, not very experienced, clean guns, and the last thing they do is the barrel. Now, they've cleaned up, they've shined the gun, and they run that rod through with a brush, and then it splatters all over the gun, and then they got to clean the gun again. So I'm a big believer in let's be efficient. You want to clean the barrel and the cylinders first. That way, if little droplets splatter on the firearm, then at least you haven't cleaned the firearm yet. Then on the inside of the slide, or inside where the cylinder fits into the revolver, you're going to want to scrape the corners. Now, you can use, I call them dental tools. They look like dental tools. The plastic ones are crap. They snap, they break. There's no pressure on them that you can put. And they also have brass ones. I recommend the brass ones because it's not going to scratch your gun. Brass is softer than steel. The harder material is what would scratch the less hard material. So using brass on your firearm, using phosphorus in your brushes is not going to harm your firearm. With that said, I also will use, and I'm making air quotes because it's not exactly, but the best description I can give you is Q-tips and toothpicks. Now, I used to use the Q-tip brand you get at Walmart, Walgreens. You clean your ears out. And what I found is the shaft or the stick part is made out of cardboard and paper, and it's not very strong. So you crank down a little bit on that cotton head, and all of a sudden the Q-tip snaps in half. A couple years ago, I found on Amazon looks like a Q-tip, but it's 6 inches long, so it's longer, and the shaft is made out of bamboo, which means you can put a lot more pressure on it. Also, one side has what you would think a Q-tip head would look like. The other side, the Q-tip head is wrapped into a cone shape, allowing you to get into little crevices. After we clean with that, then I recommend, I said toothpicks. I don't use toothpicks anymore for the same reason. They are very, very thin. They snap really easily. And I was in a classroom at a range where I rent out classrooms and I teach different use of force techniques. And the person whose classroom it was had all his cleaning supplies there. And I looked, and a light bulb went on above my head when I saw that he had manicure sticks. Manicure sticks are several times thicker than Q-tips. They're used in manicure stores or manicure shops. And one side is flattened, one side is pointed, and you can really crank down on that. Use those to clean out the little edges, 90-degree angles, and crevices. After the gun is all cleaned, you put it back together, and before you put it together, you're going to need to add oil. Now, the old days, some old guns, it was grease. You might see on YouTube some people using grease. Like there's a 1911 video. I use it in my class from Midway USA, and there's a 1911 video that I use in my class, and the person who cleans it is using grease. Now, I have to tell people we use oil now. We don't use grease, but at the time, you have a World War II era weapon. You've got an M1 Garand, a 1911 from then it might be appropriate to use grease. But modern firearms, you'd use gun oil. And people tend to over-oil their guns. All you have to do is make a little teeny drop and touch it to the rails, to wherever you have moving parts that is metal on metal, and literally it's a half drop or less in each spot. Some people just squirt the you-know-what out of it, and the trouble is after you've been carrying it or it's sitting in a safe, the oil actually attracts dust. And when you have dust in your gun, it could impact the ability for the slide to move back and forth. One customer, he had a Model 19 Smith & Wesson, which was a .357 revolver. And he couldn't figure out why it was getting harder and harder to squeeze the trigger. And I said, I know. He didn't take it apart fully. He just opened the cylinder and would clean from there. I took out the arm and the cylinder with the screw that's there that you're supposed to do, and the inside of that arm where the cylinder spun was crammed with gunk. So I cleaned it for him, and then I spun it. You don't spin it and put it in the gun like you see in the Wild West, but with the cylinder open, I would spin it just to make sure it would freely move. It's not spin and close, it's just spin. And then I closed it for him, and his eyes were just wide open with wonder and delight, saying, oh, wow, this was a firearm, it's my favorite gun, and you just fixed it. So that's one thing you can do with a revolver. If you have questions on it, you can always reach out to me. My electronic business card is Marcus Melnick, that's M-A-R-C-U-S, Melnick, MELNICK.com. I'm big on business cards. I have a physical business card, a couple of them. They're just the coolest you've ever seen, and I'm going to leave that as a mystery because when you see me, please ask me for a business card, and you will see the most awesomest business card you've ever seen. I've never seen anyone else do what I do. Hey, I'm a visionary. But because I do online networking, I attend Zoom calls, I do Zoom presentations, I have an electronic business card so people can actually save me into their phones, and people do all the time. I get questions from the military, I get questions from law enforcement, I get, hey, I just want to talk to you, get your opinion on XYZ, so please, really, you are not bugging me. The only thing that I ask is if you would like to contact me, my preferred way of being contacted is via email. Seriously, via email. Because during the day, I'm often in meetings or conducting training or otherwise occupied, and I can't answer the phone all the time. So if you email me, or if you really need to talk to me, shoot me an email and say, hey, what's your availability to talk on the phone? And I can tell you in between clients, in between meetings, I got 15 minutes here, half an hour here. But, whenever you get a phone call, like from a salesperson, it's never at a convenient time. Same thing in business. So shoot me an email, and I mean that pun intended. Shoot me an email, and we can set up a phone call. I would love to interact with everyone and talk with everyone. Once you have put your firearm back together after you have disassembled it, you want to exercise it. That might mean cocking and decocking, cocking and decocking. If you have a revolver, it might mean exercising the slide. Now, do you have to clean the magazines? Well, depends on the magazine. For the older ones, like your 80s, 70s, and before, yeah, you probably should take apart the magazine and clean it. However, Glock specifically says don't. And I don't mean this in a negative way. I'm just going to say their magazines are disposable, meaning they're plastic. They're not expensive. If it fails, it's easier just to replace it. A lot of times the plastic will get chewed up, and then it's not good anyway. A friend of mine, one of my coworkers, this is kind of funny. I worked at a gun store. He came in. I don't know if he had a polymer gun. Might have been a Glock, and he left it out. Didn't have kids at home. It's just him and his dog, and his dog got a hold of the gun and chewed the crap out of it. It ruined the gun. So there's something to be said for locking up your guns. Even if no children are there, you have a curious dog, you don't want him to eat your gun. I didn't even mean that the way it sounded, but you don't want him to ruin your firearm. So I hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back next week with more information for you. Thank you. We have monthly concealed carry license CCL classes in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. Dates can be seen at firearmmentor.com/classes. If you have a question, we can be reached at www.firearmmentorcard.com. That is our electronic business card, has all of our contact information and links in it. It's the easiest way to get a hold of us. Until next time, stay safe out there, and I'll see you at the shooting range. This is Marcus Melnick from Firearm Mentor signing off. The views expressed are not those of local community broadcasting, WYML LP, or its management, volunteers, or underwriters.